Dover Apothecary June show with Barb. Barb, how are you?
Great, Dave. How are you?
I
It's
cannot
it's
complain.
June, right?
It's
It's awesome.
June. Weather is vibrant. It's going to warm up, and yeah, we deserve it. It's about time, right? It got all sunny and warm for us, and we can go out and hang outside and have some fun. I wanted to share a couple things with you this morning, and one of the cool things was my mom had surgery last month. 81 years old, bounced back, and she's getting back
Yeah.
into the outside world and going at things. And we're trying to encourage her to be. She always is active, but encourage her to get back out and do things. And that's one of those
Right.
ages where your kids are all grown up. She lives on her own, but she wants to keep active. So you got to keep that thought process going that way, isn't it? She told me the other day. She said what she says. She says with her recovery, she said I'm tired of feeling lazy. And I thought that was sort of a really great
Wow.
line
Yeah.
that sort of explained her. She wants to be busy. And we're going to talk
hmm
about that today. So I'm going to give you the floor because I do think we need to encourage all aspects of our lives to be busy outdoors doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad she's doing well. Our mums are very similar ages and the parallels in, what happens in our lives as we get to the ages that we are, and if we're honored and lucky enough to still have a parent or parents around. But it's a whole different way of learning to look at the world and sometimes really checking in on our patience levels. Because, if you've been an empty nester for quite some time and then suddenly you're starting to have more responsibility for an aging parent, it can be really, really interesting to sort of massage that different relationship that starts to occur. And I was really, really blessed. I mean, obviously, as a registered holistic nutritionist, food is incredibly important. The sourcing of that food is really, really important. So I belong to a wonderful local CSA, which is community supported agriculture. And recently, on one of my mom's stays, because she goes back and forth between our house and my sister's house, but mainly with my younger sister, who's still raising children. And so when mom comes for a change of scenery, sometimes things are really busy in my office. And I feel really guilty, when she's here and I don't necessarily have things planned for her to do because life is just busy. So got an invite to the local CSA to help Sarah take the little seedlings and transplant them into bigger pots so that the plants could flourish. And many of those plants will get planted for the program, but other ones also go into plant sales, and much of it goes to food banks. So it's a whole incredible scenario. So I didn't know it was not a very nice day out. It was cool, it was rainy, and I'm thinking, okay, mom's 82, we're going into a damp greenhouse. How's this gonna go? And we got there, and I knew it was only a 3-hour commitment and that I could leave with her if this wasn't, floating her boat kind of thing. But we got there, and one of our neighbors, who's 81, was also there. His wife has dementia and some other health issues. And so here we were in this greenhouse with other friends of the community and actually doing something that was really, really cool. And just watching the way that my mom and the dynamics in there changed, and watching her converse with somebody her age, because it's been 4 years almost now since my dad's been gone. But watching her doing, I mean, she always had a garden when we were growing up, right? So that part of it wasn't new. But just watching the chatter, the relationship, the ease of this whole situation. And I watched a light spark up in my mom that really, really affected me. And it was like, wow, like this CSA, it's not just about agriculture. This is community supported aging that's happening here. This is plugging people into such a gentle and subtle grounding purpose that really gets sidelined as people age. It isn't my mom's fault that my dad is gone. It's not. her fault that she was in a home she couldn't care for anymore. But suddenly, when life is going a different direction where we don't have that same control over the things we do in a day, and people start to lose that sense of purpose, and then they start to get small. And so to watch her blossom in this act of nurturing and something that was giving back to the community, wow, like it was really incredible.
It's that's I like what you said about community because I don't think we realize how important that is to our health, right? It's one of those
Yeah.
unknown quantities that you can't measure, but it's so important that
Hmm.
you're able to get out and just socialize. And like you
Yeah.
said, someone our own age, that's a critical component
Yes.
because suddenly they can relate to things that you and I might not understand or didn't live through.
Hmm.
They did, right? So there's that
Yeah.
camaraderie, that common bond there. And just being physically active, right? For your mom too, it's probably just such
Yep.
a wonderful time to be able to do those things and share
It
that,
is.
share what you're growing, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It was a beautiful experience, and it was definitely something that opened her eyes to, you know, realizing how much she needs that. There's when she's with my sister in Dunville, they're in the country. They live on a road that doesn't have any sidewalks. There's barely any shoulder on it. There's nowhere for my mom to walk. And when she comes to us, yes, we're in a subdivision, but with the green space.
Yeah,
And then many of our neighbors are much more in her age bracket. So I always make a point of making sure we're connecting with those people. And so it's lovely for her to have that opportunity of that change of scenery. But yeah, just slowing myself down and realizing how much that is because tomorrow we don't know what tomorrow is
right.
going to bring, and we don't know how long our parents are going to be with us. But it's hard not to sometimes be impatient, and then you get frustrated with yourself in your impatience. But when you can create those simple little opportunities, it didn't cost anything,
Right.
it
Yeah,
was just, but my gosh, the value of those little things. And so many of us need to be giving back to our communities more. It's something that, many people are waiting for retirement to do that sort of thing because their daily do list is huge. But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic experience. And I really thought, we just had Mother's Day in May, and, Father's Day is June. And just looking at the whole population. Maybe you've got a neighbor that would like to be involved, but maybe they don't drive anymore. And it's only a few hours. It doesn't have to be a day or a week or anything like that. But those little day to day when somebody's feeling up to it, because that waxes and wanes as
yeah,
well. You kind of go with that flow and watch these people light up and give back and share their histories and feel valued again, because we need that.
for sure. And 2 points there that we were talking about that we should stress is people are living longer and they're living healthier.
Mhm.
So, that
Yeah.
exactly the physical components are still in place. Like your mom and my mom, they can still go out and do what they want to do. But we got to take care of the mental side too. They got to be engaged. And a lot of times over the years, I've been very fortunate. The amount of people, the amount of seniors I've been able to interview or have friendships with, I'm always
Mhm.
amazed that more people don't take the opportunity to learn from these folks. They've seen it, they've done it, and they just want to share it. They're not telling you what to do. They're saying, this is what happened to me, or this is how
Yeah.
I saw it. And I think sometimes we get caught up that they're trying to tell us what to do when they're just saying, hey, my experience was this. Maybe don't make the mistake, or maybe go try it this way. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of it too, that we, as a society, we've done that for a long time now. We've kind of went, oh, they're seniors, pushed them aside, but they have so much to offer. And it's as simple as, like you said, engaging in a conversation with someone their own age and just sitting back and listening. Like you probably learned things you're like, I didn't know that, right? You're suddenly your mother's talking to someone else in her age group, and you're like, it
Yeah.
kind of opens your eyes a little bit to what their life experiences were.
Hmm.
Can
Yeah.
you talk to people are living longer and they are healthier, aren't they?
Well, I would say that there are a lot of people that are consciously putting in the work, at the right ages, that acknowledgement that we do need to live more preventatively and proactively as opposed to falling into a condition that's avoidable. Yeah, so that I mean, my grandmother was 93 when she died. She was my basis for, the interest in nutrition overall, but reading those sorts of things. And I'd never heard my grandma swear in her life, but one thing that she did say was she was like, when I get old, I want to be able to wipe my own ass. And I'm like, okay, oh, grandma, you really caught me on that one. But it just, in a nutshell, she's like, yes, she wanted her faculties, she wanted her physical mobility. Those sorts of things were non-negotiable to her. And the morning that she died, um, she got up, she got dressed, she made her bed, she put her jewelry on, she sat down in a chair to do her crossword. And when she didn't show up for breakfast, that's how they found her. And I'm like, talk about winning the game.
Yeah,
Like,
on
if
her terms.
when it's your time, what a beautiful, beautiful way to just go. No suffering, no incapacity, any of those things where you don't have that independence. And she was diligent about making sure she stayed physically active. Her nutrition, she had her treats, but everything, that's where I learned about moderation and balance.
Right.
For her, a scoop of ice cream, a scoop, not the container, was the cure for a sore toe or a headache or anything in between. That was, so but all of those nutritional elements, that activity, that drinking water, just that little bits of all the good things and a few of the treats. And so, yeah, if we're going to live longer, then there is work that goes into it because we want that to be a quality of life. And part of that quality of life, 100%, means we have to take care of the mental health and the mental stimulation because that, like your muscles, it wastes away.
Right.
So when we have those, even if somebody's become nonverbal, right? We've taken our dogs into seniors residence before. And my father-in-law, who had dementia for 10 years, Alzheimer's, we would take the dogs in and he would pet them for a few minutes and then he would start talking. And yet he hadn't been verbal for quite some time. So, watching that unlocking when there's something that people connect with and can engage with, it's huge. And we have to look for those opportunities to encourage our aging population to be involved in their community. And it doesn't have to be something huge. It just
Yep.
needs to be something simple and to feel heard, to feel validated, to feel connected. We need to be a part of something. It's massive.
Do you think the moment your mom's hands touched that dirt, it kind of all just came back?
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Yeah.
probably was that moment in there that went, oh yeah, I remember this. This is fun. I enjoy this. And then the
Yep.
conversation, like you said, it was probably similar to the petting the dog. Like it's a commonality that they hadn't did in a while, or had
Mm-hmm.
kind of, well, I don't do that anymore type thing. So
Right.
that reignites, like you said, reignites a great word for it. Kind of puts that perspective back in again. That this is something I enjoy. I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Finding your passion.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, I was really proud of her there in the greenhouse there because, some of us, our backs were starting to ache a little bit because we're leaning over these tables as we do these little seedlings. And I look over and I see my mom taking the trays filled with dirt that haven't been planted with. And she stacks three up and then puts the one that she's using on top of that
Right.
and starts putting her seedlings in there.
So she's not.
And we're looking, and I'm like, well, I'll be darned.
There's,
Her back's not hurting. She's just
and she ain't going to tell you youngins
that
learn.
common sense, right? she's like, well, what the heck? I don't need a sore back. I can just, and then so John started doing that. And John's a lot taller than my mom. And he's like, I'm glad I've got you as my work partner. I'm not going to go home with a sore back. It was just like, that made her feel so good
Yeah.
because, again, she felt like she contributed. And it was so simple, but it was so beautiful.
Do you work with a lot of seniors in your
I
practice?
do.
Yeah, and
I
that
do.
shows right there, like you said, they want to stay healthy, right? They're looking
They
at
want
ways
to
to.
stay healthy. What has been and a lot of the inspiration for this podcast and for the article this month is that a number of my clients who aren't a lot older than me that have retired, that have family that lives quite a distance away, and they're having health issues. And they've started to say things like, I'm just glad I'm at this stage of my life because I'm tired of living. And it's just
Mm,
shocking because
yeah.
these are people with resources, okay? These are not people that don't have financial stability. They have their own homes. They have a lot. They have education. They have good food on their tables. And yet they've lost their direction and their sense of purpose. They've retired and their lives have essentially just become small and insular. And it was just like, wow, I really need to be leaning into all of those facets of health because nutrition isn't going to make enough of a difference
No.
if people aren't well here
Right.
and
I
if
agree.
physically they're not staying mobile and active and doing different activities. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting time. There's a shift in people's mental well-being, and we need to nurture that and take care of that as much as we do the nutritional end of things.
And I think things have changed so rapidly in the last 20 years that
They
it's
have.
hard to keep up, and they feel like they've slipped way behind, and there's no chance to catch up. You don't
Hmm.
really have to catch up. You just got to live your best life. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
think that's the part that gets forgotten. It's not about the race anymore. It's about
right.
enjoying it. So
Yeah.
this great show today. How do people get a hold of you, Barb?
So by email, it's barb@healthywellandwise.ca. Can also reach me by text or phone call at 519-410-3544. And my client appointments are by appointment. And yeah, so home office is great, collaborating with the apothecary, of course. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for doing this. A great show. I think this is another one we can go down the road on because I think we want to dive into this a bit more because I think you just touched the tip of the iceberg here. And there's some great
Hmm.
conversations we can have. We got great groups like Senior Support Services in Holden, Norfolk,
Right.
and there's lots of things where folks can get out. But maybe we'll flush all that out in the next show. Thanks, Barb.
That sounds great, Dave. Take care.